Hey, folks, my guest today is Ariel Asarov. He's had a career in the Israeli intelligence unit of 8200 and later joined Verint Systems to work at the Homeland Security Division and co-founded Coralogix in 2015 to change how companies analyze their data from index, then analyze to index and go back and forth on what matters. Ariel, are you ready to take us to the top?
Thank you very much, Nathan. Great to be here.
As I say, is ex-Israeli intelligence, Monday, Roy Mann, Chorus. I feel like you just know something we don't.
It's interesting, actually. I think there was a research now in Israel that showed where most entrepreneurs come from. I think there are three specific units. There's 8200, there's 8100 that came out of shadows recently, and there's pilots. So in our company, we have a mix, and in our board, we actually have 80% of the board members are pilots in their past. So I guess there's something when everyone has to get enlisted to the army that kind of ranks people on what they like to do and should do in life when they're 18, which makes decisions easier.
That's amazing. All right, so let's jump into Coralogix. What are folks paying you for today?
Yeah. So the thing is, if I take a step backwards, the observability space, logging, metrics, security, tracing, it started about almost 20 years ago, or it really started to explode almost 20 years ago when Splunk took it from the appliance sort of approach to actual software and then software as a service with the concept of let us ingest all your data, we'll index it, we'll store it, we'll become some sort of Google for your organization or for your operations or for your security. And it worked great because the amount of data 20 years ago was something that can be handled like that. And with time, we're seeing data growing exponentially. What we tell our customers and our investors in the previous round was data grows faster than revenue. So you'll see any company you're covering, you'll notice, like you'll ask them and they'll give you the most insane KPI of growth. If you ask them how much did their data grow during that time, their observability data, it'll be like 5-10x. Yeah. What happens is that, data and observability tools are part of your margins, or part of basically, they're part of the unit economics of an organization. And as data grows faster than revenue, it becomes hard to manage, super expensive, hard to scale, performance issues start to rise. So we started a company like almost 7 years ago, but we didn't start where we are today.
We 2014, right?
That was end of 2014. Okay. And we started with like a lighter version of Splunk, data like a cloud, cheaper Splunk. But with time, things started evolving, and we saw that customers aren't looking just for a solution that can do whatever the others can, because their model started to break. Cost containment was impossible, performance was an issue. And then we kind of decided after 3 years of basically doing nothing. So the first 3 or 4 years, the company was zero revenue, zero customers. It was almost shut down. So we were
hold on. So between 2014 and 2017, no revenue.
The first dollar came in October 2017. And we actually had a board on September 2017 where there was a decision point where the board members said, we like you guys. They were super nice and patient.
How much had you raised to that point?
$2 million. And it was.
So wait, didn't you do a $5.2 million seed though in 2016?
No, not $5.2 million. It was $1 million, then another $1 million.
I see. Okay.
And then they kind of wondered whether they should just close the company and hand out the money back to the investors, but there was so little that they decided not to, because it doesn't really matter. And
how much was in the bank 2017 before you shut down or thought about it?
$300,000.
Wow.
At the end of 2017, we're 5 people.
Wow.
So I'm one of the co-founders, but I was not the CEO. The CEO left at that point. And
how much equity did you own at that point?
It was, we just had a couple rounds, so it was still fine. And then the CTO that was an employee left after him because, the company kind of fell apart. So he went to manage a group at this big company. And Yoni, a good friend of mine who also led a group in Verint, basically became the CTO, became my co-founder, and we restructured the company entirely. And we started running from that point onwards And within the 4 or 5 months, we got to like 25,000 of monthly recurring. So the board was very surprised because they thought they're going to shut down the company. And they gave us $2.5 million more, like an extension, like a CLA.
At what valuation?
The valuation back then was roughly $10 million.
Okay, got it. So you sold, call it 25%.
Yeah. So we started running the company and ended that year at like a bit over $1 million. And then something interesting happened. We got an acquisition offer, and that was for a few tens of millions.
In 2018?
That's beginning of 2019.
Okay.
We were really considering, because, you know, we had so much, we had so much trouble getting this off ground, and people in the board and in the company started to get tired because we were only 7-8 people back then.
Mm-hmm.
So we got into a point where we had an SPA in our hands.
What does that stand for? Is that like an LOI?
SPA is Shares Purchase Agreement. No, it's all the way to the actual signature.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That is the definitive agreement. Now,
yep.
I was 29, and at that point, getting a few $1 million looked like, you know, when I thought about starting the company, for me, that was like an ultimate outcome, right? But then, you know, we're fortunate.
Wait, Ariel, sorry. I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but take us in your head, actually, at that point. You're 29. How much of the company did you own at that point?
I'm not sure I can share percentages, but a decent percentage.
Okay.
I could have taken a nice amount of millions.
Can you give a range of like between 10 and 50%? Is that a big enough range?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. And the offer was for in the tens of millions. So like it was like 30, 40 million.
Low tens. Yeah.
Low tens.
Not 90, 100.
Okay.
So we were actually fortunate to be at that point because not many people get to, you know, everyone says, I want to grow a big company. I don't want to sell, you know, and then the acquisition offer comes and now you're sitting in front of something that is real. And we were actually there to look at how it'll feel like just signing a piece of paper and receiving a few millions of dollars. And then me and Yoni said, you know, we actually don't want to do that.
Yep.
We have a lot more to do. So I went to one of our board members at stage one and I said, listen, I know there's going to be a board meeting next week to approve the SPA, which means this is a definitive agreement. I need your support on this. So he said, listen, I'm part of the committee that ran this deal. So what I'll do, I'll resign from the board and resign from the committee. And then I'll be able to do so, which was a little bit dramatic. And then he said, and what's the alternative? I mean, the company is, you know, we bear in mind, we don't have money in the bank at that point. So I call a friend of mine from Aleph VC, Aaron, and I say, listen, next week, we need to decide on an SPA. I know you know the company. Here are the numbers. And I text the numbers on WhatsApp.
What were they, by the way? High level.
Back then it was like 1.4 million a year, maybe, or so. Yep. That's mid 2019. So like after the acquisition offer, it took a few months to get to the SPA.
Yep.
And then what happens is that he tells me, you know what, I think we'll make an offer. And I said, okay, so when can you make it? He said, oh, you know, I'm coming back to Israel next week. Let's meet my partners. I said, listen, man, there's a meeting Monday. It's Tuesday now. I need to get it. So he arranges his partners in this room in New York. We barely hear each other. 30 minutes we speak. And then he says, you know what, I'm going to send you an offer. And he sends the offer again on WhatsApp, like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I said, can I bring this to the board? Because, you know, they're going to turn off an offer that's going to make like a nice income for everyone. Even the ones that got in 10 million will make.
Yeah, like they're still 3-4x, right?
Yeah. And he says, tell the board that we are 100% behind it. We're not backing off no matter what we discover in the due diligence, which was very ballsy. And then,
and what was the WhatsApp? This was a $10 million round. At what valuation? The same as the acquisition offer?
It was a $10 million round, the same valuation of the acquisition offer. So we make it apples to apples, with some nice restructuring the cap table, because back then there was already, because of the bridge loan. So,
that 2.5 million, that was a loan.
Converted. Yeah. It was a CLA. It converted together with the round.
Okay.
And we took that. offer, and we signed that in, I think it was like summer of 2019. And he told me after that conversation, listen, this is going to be the hardest round you've had, because you guys had such a hard time. Now you finally have an actual company, and things started really running well. And then
just to be clear, Ariel, I mean, this is kind of incredible. 1.4 million bucks in ARR, and you got the 10 million raise done. I think like a 30-40 million dollar valuation. So I mean, that's a pretty high multiple, right, for a company that was struggling back in 2015.
You know, I see companies today raising 20 million seed rounds at 100. So I don't know anymore. But back then it was a nice leap of faith.
Yeah. So
actually, we ended that year at double. So within like 4 or 5 months, and that was great.
Wait, what do you mean by that? You ended at 2.8 million run rate in December of 2019?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we started growing really nicely, but then COVID hit really bad.
Yep.
That was beginning of 2020. We actually opened, so everything was inbound and word to mouth. We didn't have any salespeople. We hired a first sales team in New York, and I went to meet them in New York on the 10th of March, 2020. We had a week training and onboarding. I went back home, and everything locked down. In Israel and the US, everything locked down. No one would take our calls. No one answered emails. Everyone was shocked. New York became hell. So my team, part of them, were not available. It was a mess. So it took us like 4 or 5 months to get out of the shock and start growing again. But 4 or 5 months, we were literally stuck. Nothing moved. No growth.
Yep.
And then
what were you stuck at? I mean, you're talking like what, a 8-9 million run rate? 3 million still. Okay.
3 million.
Yeah.
And then what happened is that in June, I met Red Dot and OG Tech, two growth companies, growth VCs here in Israel, and told them, listen, I know the numbers don't look really well, but we're going to launch Streama. And I explained what Streama is. And that was critical because Streama is basically what we started working on ever since we got in that CLA beginning of 2018, which is flipping how the ingestion pipeline looks like. So everyone index all the data, and then they analyze it. So they run periodic queries on the data. They run the aggregation on the storage. They run the dashboards from the storage, which makes it expensive, slow, and limits the level of analytics that you can provide.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them we're launching Streama, which will analyze everything in real time, including stateful things. So even though it's real time without storing the data, I can tell you that something happened that didn't happen the past 3 months. So that is something that doesn't exist today in the market at all. It's stateful streaming. And that will lead, what I explained, that will lead to cost reduction, better performance, easier customer acquisition, and broaden our use cases from logs to logs and metrics and security and traces and in the future BI. And also decouples us from the storage so we can use any syntax, any dashboard. So Coralogix today can use its own dashboard, but many others. Like, I don't know if it's very common, but Kibana, Grafana, SQL clients, Tableau, anything can plug to Coralogix. So now it's a data platform play. It's not just a product. And it's a hard thing to explain to an investor, not to mention when you're not growing. But they actually believed in it. We didn't do a round. They just said, okay, we're in. We got a couple offers. We went with these guys. We got a $25 million check. And
well, what was the initial? So I want to understand and get in your head a little bit more. So you tell the story. You got to sell a vision. Any startup founder has to do that, right? You get the offer at some valuation. What was the initial offer? And then were you able to drive the valuation up, create some FOMO at all, or no?
So actually, one thing that we've done in both that round and this one after was not go after the highest valuation, even when we got it. But to optimize to the structure of round that we felt that is the best for us. So who gets to put how much? How does the board look like? What are the expectations from the company? What's the expectation from the end of the year? How many board meetings we have? What advisors we bring? How much ESOP we leave? And that, I think.
Wait, that one I'm curious on. What was the ESOP pool you set up in this round, Series B?
After Series B, so I think we left 8% clean ESOP.
Okay.
After Series A, we left 13% clean ESOP that we as founders did not take. So
Yep.
the thing is that I think because of the scars we had when we founded the company and all the hardships that we went through, we understood that for us to succeed, what we need most from our investors is patience and believing in our vision. Because this is you're a tiny company, you're trying to fight Splunk and Datadog and other companies that are tens of billions. If you don't have a patient board that can understand technology and go a long way with you, let me put it this way. If our seed round was with like an American top VC, we would have shut down for sure. Yeah. Like they'd shut us down. They won't even ask. So we understood that this is the most important part. And ever since then, so that round closed roughly November 2020.
And what valuation was that? About 100 million?
Roughly 100. Yeah. And we've done...
That's post money, right?
That's post.
Yeah.
And we've done more than almost 4x ever since.
So the round you just raised was 55 million at like a 400-ish post.
That's what's published in TechCrunch. It's around the number.
TechCrunch always get shit wrong all the time. Though I'd rather just hear it from you.
It's interesting because we actually did not disclose any valuation of them and said that we cannot disclose, but they guessed, which was roughly around the number, so we didn't care too much.
Yeah. I mean, look, most of the stuff is pretty standard. You're selling a certain percent in most rounds, but I like talking to founders where they do something creative with the rounds. For example, if a big chunk of the 55 million was secondary, so you could retain early employees that really wanted some liquidity, so they'll stick with you longer. Like, did you do anything creative or was it very standard?
So a couple things. First of all, when I said 4x, I meant our revenue more than 4x, not just the...
So also that's 12 million in ARR then.
I think
no wait, Ariel, come on, 12 million in ARR, right? That's 4x 3 million.
That's roughly the number again.
He won't say it. Look at this. This is great. All right, that's great.
We spoke about 8,200. You remember, Nathan?
Yeah.
So
I can never crack the Israeli. I can crack most founders. Ex-Israeli defense. You guys are the toughest shit, but you figure out a way.
So I think, by the way, the round was June. If I had to guess. Since June we've almost doubled. So I mean,
revenue.
So I mean, wow. the valuation should be higher if we were to raise around today, but we have a lot of cash. I don't think we'll go to around very soon.
So you're past 24 million bucks in terms of forward-looking run rate then right now.
We have a decent runway that can fit a bigger company than what we are. You
did more than $2 million in revenue last month.
I can't confirm or not confirmed. So we are at a point now where we're starting to really broaden the opportunity and the offering.
Yep.
So we're saying, we have this technology that can analyze in real time without storage. Why stop with observability? Why stop with logs? We started doing security now. We're launching a security offering, very powerful, including professional consulting, including cloud posture, and other things that...
Wait, Ariel, tell me more about that. Most VCs would hate the word consulting, but I know some of the highest net dollar retention founders tie on consulting to their stickiest customers. How are you structuring that?
So the thing is that it goes with the product, just like CrowdStrike has consulting and PS, but we're not talking about a service that will go to customers outside the Coralogix ecosystem. A customer that buys a certain amount of data in Coralogix will get, without paying per hour, but he will get an expert helping him on board, helping them define the right criteria for security alerting, help them build their incident response strategy. Those are things that we're seeing that are a huge gap in the market. Companies really, one of the questions, so one of our advisory boards is Yuval Cohen. He used to be the CISO at ServiceNow for a few years. And he's asked a question on his LinkedIn that I really connected to before we started this, and the answers were remarkable. So he said, how much did you increase your spend in the past 2 years on security products? And it ranges between 4 to 10x. And then how much more secure do you feel in your organization? Like how did you improve your security posture as an organization? And most answers are not, like, none to a bit more, because these tools, they produce a lot of insights. I don't know what to do with them. I don't know how to defend myself. There's a huge gap of information, and there's a huge gap of knowledge. So this is where we fit in to help our customers actually make the best of the product. Now, if this is just, observability and logging, there are many people, DevOps and platform engineers that really know this. But now, as security becomes part of the DevOps and platform team's responsibility, these guys just don't know security. So everyone talk about DevSecOps, but there aren't really many DevSecOps engineers. Many of them are just DevOps engineers that got a new responsibility to secure the cloud. Yep. So this is where we fit in.
And how many customers like that are paying you now today? It's over 2,000, right? How many total?
2,000 customers are paying us, but this is the current platform. The security product has 5 customers. 2 of them are some of the biggest companies in the world. Right. So we are actually aiming this offering for larger companies that have bigger infrastructure or migrating to the cloud, unlike our cloud native and internet play for the observability stack.
Let me stick on this for a second, the professional services question. If you have 2,000 customers today, what are they paying you per month on average on the SaaS side? And what are the professional service like setup options?
So today there's no professional services at all. They'll only go for security. So today it's all SaaS. There's full SaaS. We have one client that is semi on-prem and not SaaS. And it's just because the amount of data they produce is not something that any cloud can handle.
And what's the average customer paying you per month right now to use the technology, the current technology?
So, it really ranges because there are so many zero-touch customers. The top 100 are roughly at a 80, 85 ACV.
What's the most, don't name the customer, but your biggest customer pays you how much?
$1 million a year.
Okay, so do you have multiple accounts at $1 million a year or just one?
We have 25 accounts over 100,000 and 5 accounts over 500,000.
Okay, so 25 accounts over 100K and then 5 accounts over 500K and then 1 over $1 million.
Yep.
That's a bit, okay, that's great. Where have you had success driving the upsell? What are you upselling against to get someone to go up to $1 million ACV?
Yeah, so, first of all, the growth of data, like I mentioned, is exponential. Yeah. Even though we're super efficient, we have so many ways to reduce costs because we help customers prioritize data by use case and then they pay less and so on and so forth. There's just data growth. And we have other offerings that customers buy. So a customer would start with logs and then they'll buy metrics and then they'll buy security and in the near future, they'll buy tracing. So, we expand like this on multiple products. I think this is a game that Datadog played really well. They have 9 products now and they just upsell and cross-sell all the time. It also gives the customer a sense of unification of data because people want to see everything in the same place, the same dashboard. So it helps drive both the gross retention and the net retention. So,
what is your net retention today?
So since the beginning of this year, over 130%.
130. And peel back that onion. So there's gross and then expansion. What was gross churn and then what was expansion?
Gross churn this year, less than 2%.
Total. That's incredible. So expansion was like 32%, something like that.
Roughly.
Wow, that's pretty, okay, that's very impressive. What's the team look like today? How many people?
We're just 100 people. We just reached 100 people exactly. The interesting fact is that exactly 2.5 years ago, we were 8. So the company is growing really fast. And I think a year from now, we'll cross the 200 people mark. I think this company basically is a company that started in January 2018. Think about it this way. So we had like 3.5 lost years. And then in January 2018, the company started and that's just a different life. You see the graphs of growth, it's like this and then just boom.
What's more impressive to me is that, I always look at sort of unit economics, right? If you've got $24 million in revenue right now, with 100 people, that's $240,000 in revenue per employee, which is it's almost triple what the average private VC backed SaaS company has. And I'm sure you're hiring like crazy right now. So that number will go down as you invest in growth.
Exactly.
But it's still
we're hiring a lot more. We're doing more marketing. This is just a result of our history. You tend to not be a huge spender when you experience 4 years having zero budget and almost shutting down a company.
How many engineers on the team?
The largest group is engineering, over, I think, almost 70 engineers.
70 engineers. Interesting. Okay, so what's the next move? I mean, again, it sounds like you've almost doubled over the past 4 months in terms of revenue. This is a fast-growing company. Obviously, Salesforce failed to get the Datadog deal done. Are you in acquisition talks right now with Salesforce?
I am not. I actually mentioned that Salesforce, I think, will get in our space some way, somehow. And I think Confluent will also step into the observability space. I think also Snowflake will get there because that makes no sense for companies that control a lot of data and charge data to not get into the space that produces the largest amount of data, and the users have the biggest checks in the organizations now, which is the R&D and platform teams. We are not thinking acquisition now. We already rejected an acquisition. So our goal now is just to grow the company. We have, like mentioned, a pretty decent runway and a lot of freedom to grow and expand and build more products and more offerings. And, with the valuations currently in the VC market, there's no real urge to go ahead and sell the company. And by the way, to your question regarding what have we done creatively with the money in this round, we actually cleaned up a lot of the cap table from the older investors.
Tell me more about that. How did you do that?
We, you send a preemptive, we'll give a good deal. People that felt like they're going to lose their money a few years ago, suddenly found out they're at 25x, and many sold. And that made the cap table a lot cleaner.
So that's what you basically said, hey guys, we raised 55 million. We can spend X% of this to buy out early folks. And the price we're going to offer to buy it out is 20.
On top of the 55.
Say that again?
On top of the 55. We didn't count it inside the round.
Oh, okay. So what was the total round size?
I can't remember the exact number, but this is the 55 is the amount of money that we got into the company.
Yeah, I know, but I want to know what the secondary part was to clean up the cap table, like 5 to 10 million, or
if I need to guess 5 to 10 million.
Okay. And did you give the option to early employees as well, who maybe wanted a little bit extra cash?
That's interesting. Yes, to 5 people, 0 accepted.
Well, you only had 5 or 8 people for the first 4 years.
So, zero accepted. No one wanted.
No one did it.
No one wanted to sell. Actually, in the previous round, it was very interesting. In the A round, one of the employees brought $100,000 from home and bought.
That was in the 2019 $10 million round.
Yes, and he's already made a very nice multiplier.
I love that. Wait, so today, how much do employees own of the business? It sounds like 15, 20%, something fairly big.
A little less than that.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. That's obviously a great way to keep. Now, are new people that joining today, are options something you include in every offer?
There's not a single employee from office admin to anyone in the company gets options.
Yeah. That's great. Interesting. I know this is going to sound crazy because you just raised 55 million, but if you've doubled revenue, are you raising right now?
Probably not in the next 5-6 months. Now we're really expanding the go-to-market team, creating more predictable sales model. We are focused ending this year where we want to end it. And then,
which is what? Can you break 30 million by December in terms of run rate?
No, probably not. Probably not. And then after Q1, we'll look at, results. We'll see where we're ending 2022 and maybe then think about a growth round.
Yeah, really interesting. Anything else that you've done really creatively that I just didn't think to ask about?
No, it's just great speaking to you, man. I get your newsletter so many times. So
oh, nice. You read the email?
Yes, speaking to the person behind it is really cool.
Why'd you agree to come on? Obviously, I'm going to ask a bunch of data questions, which other founders appreciate. We learn from you, but why'd you agree?
I get the newsletter so many times. I got an email from you that looked personal. I just had to open it, and I said, if I can speak to this guy sitting in my inbox for the past 3-4 years, then I might as well do that.
Ariel, you're like an OG, man. You're like back in the day. All right. So just to put a copper on this one, you turned down call it a $30-40 million acquisition back in 2019. If Frank at Snowflake or Salesforce come to you and offer you $1 billion all cash up front today, do you sell?
This is a question to the board. If there's something, it's not my company.
This guy always gives the right answer. Guys, I've tried so hard to catch him. I can't do it. I've tried. All right, Ariel, let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite business book.
So it's old school, but I really loved it. It's called Spin Selling.
Dude, Neil Rackham. That's no one remembers that book.
That's very old school, but I've learned so many things from this. They basically tracked thousands of salespeople and differentiated between the successful ones and the non-successful ones, and exactly how the successful ones make it. I don't think sales changed over the course of the past 200 years. It's still human to human interactions, and it's always relevant. So this is one of the books that I actually quote so many times when we have meetings on sales and go-to-market. How
does an 8200 unit ex-Israeli defense person come across Neil Rackham and Spin Selling, like a decades old book on selling? I would never put those two together.
I actually have no idea who recommended it.
That is
That's
wild.
interesting.
I love that. Okay, number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Yeah, he's actually a friend and an advisor. So he actually gave me another very good book called, I think it's Predictable Revenue Model, something by Aaron Ross.
Yep.
That's Guy Bloch. Used to be the COO for Splunk, and now he's the CEO at Bring, which he took from a small company to a post-billion-dollar valuation company within like 2 years. Brilliant CEO, one of the best that I've met, and we chat every once in a while, and he gives me good tips on management and the whole world of go to market, specifically because he knows our market so well. And one of our advisory board members, Ronnie Grushka, one of the most straight up, no bullshit guys that you met. He's the founder of Marquette, IHS Marquette, that got sold to S&P for 40 billion lately. Brilliant guy that basically is, he's not from our domain, but he's a mentor to how to become a good CEO and how to become someone who can actually build a company that is the size of IHS Marquette, traded in NASDAQ. So there aren't many people who've done that, and he's great.
Unique, folks. Number 3, besides your own, what's your favorite online tool for building Coralogix?
My favorite online tool for building Coralogix. That's interesting. So actually, it's relatively new in our tool set. I don't know why we waited so long, but we just started using Monday heavily. And the great thing about it is that it's so versatile. So there was always like tools for managing R&D tasks and tools for sales and tools for marketing. Suddenly there's one from CS through marketing, and it's so flexible, the way that you can use it 1,000 different ways, that we found it to be super useful and helpful for the company to collaborate. So this is just like I said about companies wanting their data in the same place, the logs, metrics, security, tracing, and other events, and they want to correlate it. Suddenly when you can look at tasks end to end, and you can see a task in R&D, and when our CS writing the tutorial, when marketing or publishing it, when our sales getting enabled, this is really helpful, and one of the best products that I've used lately.
How many people on your team do you have using Monday now? Is it across the whole team?
We bought an all company license. Yes.
That's incredible. Now, was Roy also from Unit 8200 or 8100, or was he a pilot?
I actually don't know what Roy had done in the Army. I met him a couple of times. So that's one thing interesting to say about Monday. Roy Munn, they were already big. They were super successful. But he took like an hour and a half to sit together with me. He didn't know who I am. I just asked, and he sat together with me when the company was almost closing, and we sat about an hour in their office, and he tried to help me to figure out what we're doing next.
I love that. What a guy. That's a great story. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
You can see in my eyes, actually. Roughly,
you don't look bad.
Roughly, listen, I'm 32. Look at this. What are you talking about? Roughly, I'd say 3.5, 4 hours. I also have a 2.5-year-old daughter, so that's not great for sleep either.
Wow.
Roughly
okay, so
4 hours.
So married, 1 kid, and 32.
Yep.
All right, Ariel, take us home. What's something you wish you knew when you were 20?
Wow. Something you wish you knew when you were 20. I actually don't have a great answer to this. This is very interesting. So I'll tell you what I know now that I didn't know when I was 20. I don't know if I knew it, if it would help, or if I believed it, but I understood that there's no, you're pursuing success and pursuing whether it's monetary success or success, professional success, is not something that ever reaches an end. If you ask me at 20 years old, you can take $5 million home, you can take $10 million home, I would say I'd retire. And it seems like the more you have, the bigger your company is, the more assets you have, unfortunately, maybe the more you want, and it only accelerates your passion to things and your willingness to sacrifice. So you'd imagine at 20 years old that if you get to a certain point, you can lay back and chill and have more time, friends, family, and relax. It's actually the opposite. And the more higher I get, I meet CEOs, and I mentioned a few people, the more higher you get, the harder they work. And they are less tending to enjoy their time and just chill. So that's one thing that I've learned. I always thought that there's going to be a race, and everyone say I'm going to be a millionaire by 30 and take and basically retire. And when I had that chance at 29, I gave that up, and I know that now I work much harder than I did.
Guys, Ariel Osteroff, Coralogix, from 2014 to 2017, they had no revenue despite raising $4.5 million. First dollar revenue late 2017, broke $1 million in revenue 2018, then scaled to $3 million in 2019 and turned down a $40 million acquisition offer. In exchange, raised VC, has now raised another $25 million Series B at around $100 million valuation, another $55 million recently with secondary on top of that to clean up the cap table. Now working with over 2,000 customers as they really think about how to re-engineer this sort of space that he believes Influence, Snowflake, and Salesforce will all get into here shortly. Launching a new product as well with 5 enterprise customers on it. To date, biggest customer pays over $1 million. Team of 100 people, very efficient, 70 engineers as it continues to scale. Ariel, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you very much, Nick. That was an incredible summary. Thank you very much, man.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.